Hi, I'm Owen from Rask Australia. Thanks for tuning in to the Rask Network.
Before we get into today's show, there are a few things we have to go over.
Firstly, what you're about to hear and see is limited to general information only. It's not personal financial advice like you'd get from a financial planner. Also, it's important to remember that past performance is not indicative of future performance. That means that anything that's happened in the past, or we say today, is not necessarily going to reflect what happens in the future. Lastly, please consider that any of the guests or myself are featuring on this program may have a financial interest in some of the products or shares mentioned. That's enough from me. I hope you enjoyed today's program.
Kate Campbell, welcome to this episode of the Australian Fine Arts Podcast. How you going?
I am doing very well, Owen, and this is the second last episode of our summer series.
Yeah, it is. It's special because Monique, Mini Pizzica, how you going?
Not bad.
Yeah.
I
it's
dragged
always a
Monique
pleasure.
in since we don't have money and chill this month, so I thought she could come and join us for budgeting.
Yeah.
Budgeting.
Can't wait. I can't wait to get
Monique-
stuck into
Budgeting
it.
expert, Monique.
Oh, yes.
Resident expert
Monique's
on budgeting.
probably the best saver between the three of us.
Oh, for sure. Savviest with the budget, for sure. And also thrifty.
It's called just not spending money half the time.
Yeah, guys, get with the program.
I mean,
Here's how you do it. Don't spend money. But also you save money in kind of fun ways as well.
yeah. Well, I think I'm just not excessive with my spending, and I really think about if I need something before I actually commit to it. And I'll think about it for a long time.
You were also telling me you still live like you're a uni student with minimum wage.
Yeah. So like for a long time, I was like with my jobs and stuff, it was either $200 like a week or plus freelancing, and then I didn't know when that freelance money would come. So I haven't really changed my mindset in how I spend money, and I'm still like, oh, I don't know when I'm going to get paid next, which is not the case anymore. So yeah, I just really haven't changed.
It's good. Well, a lot of people's lifestyle inflate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just spend more. Like a me.
It's 2022 was definitely an expensive year for me. So this episode is my reset moment because this year I need to save a bit more.
Yeah. It's so budgeting is important.
Yeah.
Obviously. That's why we're talking about it.
And budgeting we give budgeting a really negative connotation. It's seen as a word that resembles restriction or scarcity or not being able to do what you want. But I like to think of budgeting more like I'm just giving my money a plan and an intention, and that's where I want to see it go this month. Maybe I don't want to pay my electricity bill, but I kind of have to. But I'm giving my money a plan for the month, and then I'm going, okay, well, if this is my budget, how am I actually going to fit it into my life? Because it's easier to set a budget and be like $100 on food this month. But I don't know if anyone else can do that, but it's not very realistic. So you want to set a budget that's realistic, a realistic plan for your money. But if you want to reduce spending in certain areas of your budget, then you're actually going to have to come up with some strategies to do that. Because if you've been spending $1,000 every month on food for the whole of last year and suddenly you want to spend $500 a month on food, unless you come up with a plan to reduce that spending by $500, then it's not going to change.
Yeah. I think the one thing that we probably more and more advocating for is it's not about necessarily sacrificing a lot. Sure, that might feel like that, but it's more just like rearranging the priorities, spending with intention. You know that if you have $100, the food might be important for this. Like food is important. So then you don't go and spend on something else because that's what you've identified as important. That's your intention. Same with like people, we'll talk about budgeting methods in a minute, but people like they have like a fund money account. Just think of like all of your money like that. Like what you're prioritizing where that money goes. That's really all it is. A lot of people think that there's like one formula for all of this. Probably not. No. As we'll talk about.
And it changes all the time. Like my budget now as a homeowner is very different. And it took me about 6 months to work out what are the expenses I have now and what kind of council rates and when are they due, and try to work out how that all fits together. And it's taken me quite a while to figure that out, and I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, we all do it differently, I'd say. Do you have any bank accounts do you have, Monique?
Just the one.
One bank account?
Yeah.
Like one like centralized bank account?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I think I've got like 5 or 6.
Like multiple under one institution or just one?
Well, like, because I've
like
got
one account?
One account, but I've got everything in my offset account. So
and
that's
what
how
do you do?
Two
I
accounts.
just manage. Yeah, but there's nothing in the other one, so it's
Okay.
like it doesn't even exist.
Wait, so the offset account, do you have a card attached to that?
No, so I have my debit card, which I'll transfer money from the offset.
When you
into
need
the-
it.
So
So
you
it's like
have
an
a
extra list,
separate transaction account that's linked to
Yeah.
your debit card?
but it's got nothing in it unless you put money in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez, so then you
Yeah.
have that extra step of friction where if you want to buy something, you have to transfer
Yeah,
the money.
Yeah, I'll see it transferred because I'll do it manually.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Two
I mean,
accounts.
that's just how I do it.
Yeah. So I've got like most of my money in the transaction account. Like when I say most of my money, like living money, because all the money then just ends up getting invested or whatever. I also don't like the feeling. I'm kind of over the feeling of like, I think there's a lot of anxiety around this when I was younger. When I would actually buy something, there wouldn't be the money in there for whatever reason. So I'm over that now. Like I want money always in there.
Yeah, okay.
You want to have a constant float that you.
I want to be confident when I tap when I tap my card at the checkout that I've actually got the money.
Yeah, I'm
Whereas
always at the checkout being, oh, sorry, I just need to transfer some.
yeah, I do that for the bigger things sometimes. It's rare though nowadays.
But then you're in the queue and people can see you log into your bank account.
Oh, that's fine. If there's no one behind me, I don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I just had a lot of anxiety around that when I was younger.
Okay.
Around, I would always be worried that I wouldn't have enough money, even if I thought I did because some bill that I never thought about or came out, whatever. It's interesting how we all do things differently. Yeah.
Whereas because I've set up all the big bills, like the hot water and the cold water, I still can't get over I have to pay two separate ones. But anyway, I've set that all to automatically come out of the offset account, and the money for the next 2 to 3 months of mortgage repayments is in the offset account as well. So I don't have to worry that something won't go through.
Cool. Neopets.
Oh, yes.
Talk to us about Neopets. What Kate said you were going to say something about Neopets, and this is a budgeting
She's dragged
thing.
me on this episode to talk about budgeting.
First
and
of
the
all,
only
what is a
thing-
Neopet?
Did you never have Neopets?
I'm thinking like sea monkeys. Is that
No, it was like
No.
an internet.
What?
you know, like sea monkeys?
Sea monkeys are real, Neopets are digital.
Yeah, it was on the internets. Probably like in the early 2000s, Neopets existed, and you had like your pets, and
Show
you
me
had
this
to
thing.
feed them, and you played games, and you could build your house.
So it's like a Digimon.
2000s.
Do you guys get Digimon? You wouldn't have got that, Kate.
No.
I know what you're talking about, but I never had
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
the little square thing, like
yeah,
beep, beep, beep,
yeah,
and you
kind
like
of
feed
that.
the little animals.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah, okay.
But you could do like a whole heap of. It was like a whole world, Neopet world. Anyway, so me and Kate were talking about budgeting and everything, and like how I can save so well. And I think it originated from Neopets because you had to like, I can't even remember how you'd earn the money. I can't remember how you do it, but you had to earn money
You could sell things. You could
Yeah.
play games.
mostly through
You
the
could
games. I
trade.
think
You
it
could
was.
run a shop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had the shop. Oh,
Yeah.
bringing back flashbacks. So then my main aim of Neopets, which was not anyone else's, I don't think, was to like get to 1 million Neo points. And that was like the currency, Neo points.
Okay.
So I think that really taught me like how to save money and the worth of things and how to spend your money. And yeah. Whereas I think most people with Neopets, they just don't know how to gamble. But that was not the case for me.
Just roll the dice. Some people just have
There are a lot of
dice.
like spin the wheel games
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Neopets.
Well, where you like risk it for the biscuit kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was always like, no, I need to get to 1 million Neo points. And yeah,
Did you
I
get
think
to 1 million
I
Neo?
did, and then I got to 2 million.
Well, they say the first million's the hardest. I think,
That's what they say.
so. What about Monopoly? Do you guys play Monopoly?
Yeah, but I never played it properly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you, if you land on Go, do you collect $200 or $400?
My rule is 200,
I haven't played it for a decade or so.
but I did make up a lot of rules.
I did
so
like
who
the
knows?
Game of Life though, and Mousetrap.
Yeah, I heard that.
Mousetraps.
I remember I only didn't play Game of Life as much, but it's interesting how these little games teach us a lot, isn't it? You know, I didn't have like a Neopets phase, but I did have like Age of Empires,
Oh yeah,
which was like the computer game where you'd like build civilizations.
yeah,
But that taught you about like resources, building resources, and then creating things, like
Yeah.
buildings and all that sort of stuff. Might go play that over summer. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's really a neat way to teach kids about like what this. Do you know what when we talk about capital allocation, Monique, in the Investors podcast, you know how it's like seems like really fancy. Oh, capital allocation.
Fancy
what we're
words.
doing is we're just allocating resources.
yeah. Okay,
So just like the game.
Yeah.
That's what we talk about.
yeah.
You were in saving mode. I remember I built a guild and all that sort of stuff.
never
What
did
in
that.
the game?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could create a guild. You'd find the you'd get HTML from someone's blog, which you could add to your guild so it looked cool and you could customize it. So I learnt the basics of HTML as a kid to do that. I can't remember it now, but I did at the time. And you could grow the guild to thousands of members, and you had different roles and responsibilities, and there was guild newsletters. And I feel like I do some of that now.
Remember during Christmas, the advent calendar?
Yes.
And you get all this free stuff? Oh, that
It
was
did
the best.
teach us how to use the internet, because you'd go to different blogs to find out all the secret hacks and codes and how to find the best paintbrushes and the pets.
I loved it.
It's still going now by the looks of it. Neopets.com.
Oh my God.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I just don't think it hit the same now.
I wonder if my Akara 2369 is still alive.
And because we all had to use fake birth dates to create the accounts. Do you remember the name? I don't know.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. So linking that back in with budgeting.
Yes.
Some people are natural savers, some are spenders, some are investors. Some are permanently stuck in a scarcity mindset that they're never going to have enough money. And I think it's important that we focus on budgeting as an experiment, and just you're going to have to try different methods. We'll mention a couple methods today, but adjusting things and recategorizing and saying, okay, that doesn't work for me. I don't like having the categories. I just want to say pay myself first, and that might work. So if one method doesn't work, just keep iterating until you find something that works. And it might take 12 months to kind of get comfortable with a particular way that you approach your spending and your saving. And it's something that, like, I like to check in at the end of each month and go, where on earth did my money go this month? Did it go in the places I was planning for it to go this month? If not, were these random expenses that popped up, were they something I could have planned for? Are there something I can plan for when this happens next year? Or was it just like a spontaneous fun part of life that I'm okay that I spent that extra money on?
Yeah. So, like, categorizing expenses is probably the revealing part, isn't it? When you think about it. Did you ever do that?
Not really. No.
Like, would you know how much you spend on food and groceries each month?
I mean, roughly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would only know very, very roughly. Like,
Yeah.
I don't set a
It's not as
limit
if
for
I'll
it.
have a spreadsheet of like how I spend it. It's like I know where the money's going, kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm very rough, but I know, according to my upspending review, that I spent a lot at the supermarket this year.
What's a lot? Like, is it like $10,000? Because I feel like
Well, it was kind of broken up because I've used different. It's
right,
all a
okay.
bit of a mess. But
So what would $10,000 be? Like $200 a week? You wouldn't be $200 a week. But it's easy to spend 10 grand when you think about it.
Yeah.
I haven't worked out how to. The time I like cook a few meals and then have meals out, like at lunchtime, and then go out maybe once or twice on the weekend and buy groceries as well, and then like top up milk. It ends up being very expensive. Like, I'd probably be spending $1,000 a month on food and
Related.
related activities, things that are edible.
Things that go in the mouth.
Yes. I think my food's one of my biggest expenses because I have minimal transportation. I just have PTV and Uber costs. So, yeah, utility bills, mortgage repayments, and food is where my money seems to go. Calm down.
We've got the 10 things activity that we talked about a lot on the show. If you're new to this, we should have started with this. If you're new to the Australian Finance Podcast, Meg's our producer. She's only comes on the show once a month. So
We keep her in a box.
she hides behind the
Dry
camera.
everybody up
Yeah.
every once in a while.
They're always a bit of fun. But we've talked a lot about budgeting and different methods. And I would say I'm more the second method in today's show, which is like the sort your rocks out. Put your big rocks in first. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
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 So
Sort
like
out
the
the big
jar
rocks
analogy.
first.
Can you explain
Yeah, well,
that?
we can talk about that first. So, one method that's quite simple is paying yourself first.
Yeah, paying yourself first.
Yeah, and
What's
so
I thinking rocks?
yeah, I did sort out the big rocks in the show notes, so that's where it's coming into your head. Like, okay, paying off debt's really important to you this year. That's your big goal for the year, to pay off your debts. So
So that goes in your jar first.
if we're putting $500 a month aside to paying off our debt, firstly, we've worked out that we can afford to do that. So we do have enough money to meet our minimum living costs. But we will put that money straight away as soon as we get paid into paying off debt. And then the rest of the expenses just kind of fall in around that. I don't categorize everything. It's just like, okay, there's $2,000 left. That's it for the month. That's just what I'm managing on. And so not categorizing everything to the nth degree.
So it's like the jar analogy. If you're new to this, it's like you have a jar. Imagine the jar's all of the spending, like all the money you have. You put the big important things in first and all the little things falling around the outside. It's like an analogy for life as much as money.
Yeah.
You get the big things right in first and then everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah, I do think this method, you do need to plan for those chunky expenses though. So if you do have a rates bill, or you have your annual insurance bill, or all of those things that come up, and suddenly it's like, where's that money?
Yeah.
You need to make provisions for that.
When we talk, you can use your emergency fund for that if you do get caught out. The emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of living expenses in cash set aside in a savings account. You can use that for those lumpy things, but then you have to repay that. And I think that's one place where people go wrong with any type of budgeting method, is they go very specific in the beginning, which is good because you kind of clean out the closet, which is the other method we'll talk about. You clean out the closet and you're like, this thing every month. But then, oh no, car insurance and health insurance on the same day. I don't have the money to cover that. So what do? Well, you dig into the other accounts where you just separated the money, and then you feel like you failed. And that's what we call not having a float, like a cushion to land on. It brings you back up.
I think this method works better if you've already got the emergency fund.
I would say that,
and a few things, because I think the method I'm going to talk about now, like the old school method, is really important if you've never looked at your spending before, because this one's hard. If you currently don't have any money left over at the end of each month, paying yourself first might mean you end up with not enough money at the end of the month. Yeah,
so this first one is kind of like the rawest version of a budget because it breaks it back down to scratch. This is also the most emotional. So if you are about to go on this journey, congratulations, you will get through it.
Yes.
Even if you've got a credit card, even if you've got a personal loan, even if you're going backwards, you will get through it. Describe what it is. What do you do?
So this is more like what people would imagine when they're thinking of the word budget. So we're going to break down what all the spending categories we currently use. And
something about transport, bills, rent, that type of stuff.
Your food, your insurance, your healthcare, paying off debt, gifts, all of that sort of stuff. And we're going to look at our spending over the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And so what we want to find is what's our average spending each month in these categories. And different categories will be more important for you and some won't be. So if you don't have a car, then your transport category is going to look very different from someone that does.
Yeah.
And whether you go through your budgeting app, a personal budgeting tool, your bank might categorize all of these things for you, and you might just have to go and review to make sure the gifts you got for Christmas are in the gifts section and not in just the entertainment section, because things don't categorize perfectly. So, or you could just print out or download an Excel with your spending for the last 6 months. And then you want to try and categorize that into the food, the housing, transportation, bills to find out what are you currently spending on average per month in all of these categories. And that is a big step, and it's going to take a while. So that is why it could be something good to do set that as your goal for the next month if you've never done that. So firstly, we just want to be honest with ourselves and have a good look at what we spend in all the categories.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
Which is harder than it sounds.
Yeah. Like, I still haven't done that very well.
Mel Brown says it's like standing naked in front of people. Like, a lot of people would rather stand naked in front of someone than do this.
Yeah.
So be prepared.
Until Up told me how much I spend on food.
You didn't want to do it?
I didn't know. And it was a lot. But when all those small things add up, like, it's quite revealing.
But coffee is good.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you want to do this as a pie chart, once you've worked out, okay, I have $1,000 of income each month, and this is how I spend roughly 20% in this area, 10% here. And so you kind of get a rough direction of where your spending is currently. And then you want to think of, okay, well, this year I really want to start investing.
Yep.
So I'm going to need some money left over at the end of each month. So at the moment, if my income and my expenses are pretty much the same, I've got nothing left over in my bank account at the end of each month. So how can we, if we can't increase income right now, how can we decrease our expenses so we have some money left over each month? And maybe we have $200 left over at the end of each month that we can use to invest. And so we're going to have to look at what we're currently spending on average and what are some categories we can reduce spending on. So for utility bills, there might be, if you haven't looked at it for a while, there might be some better rates or a much cheaper NBN or phone plan option. So you might be able to go through each of those and reduce costs in some of that. And that will reduce the spending each month in that area. And then suddenly that will free up some money at the end of each month. And you can go, all right, I've found space for that $200 to be put aside for investing. So it takes a bit of time, though. This is not a quick process at all.
How long would you say it would take?
Well, I'd say probably like half an hour to an hour. I'd like to go through 6 months of spending and recategorize things if you're using an app that was already doing most of the heavy lifting.
So if you're going to just get a printout and highlighter, it'll probably take a few hours.
Oh, that would, if you're printing out 6 months of statements, because we have so many little things we just paid for during the day.
Save the paper.
Yeah,
save
it could be
environment,
better to
etc.
put it into Excel, and then you can filter things, and you can go filter by Coles. And
You'll
then
quickly
find out.
work out where these major things are.
Yeah. It's just because people have random things that pop up.
I'll tell you, I did the same thing many years ago. I did it a few times repeatedly. I just did it with 1 month, but then I also knew what else I needed to pay. So I just imagined like, okay, I've got 1 month's worth of stuff, which could be irregular, sure, but then I knew car insurance is annual, registration's annual, my like contents insurance is annual. So like I knew what was annualized, and then that way I knew like I wasn't just doing 1 month and imagining the other stuff doesn't exist. But that was quicker and easier for me. I think I would have got overwhelmed if I did 6 months, but some people would do that.
Yeah, it's just because like 1 month you might be booking all the travel, which is not something you book every month. But then you might go, okay, I spent $5,000. Well, how can I work out an average amount per month so I can put this in my budget?
Financial planners call this a retrospective budget, just looking backwards. Drew always, as you know, talks about how this is the only type of budgeting they do with their clients when they come in the door because it's the only one that counts. I tend to agree with that, but some people, there are those really, like those superhumans out there that can be like, nah, starting from scratch, cutting all my cards up, cancelling them. I'm going to start from scratch, blank canvas. You can do that. Some people can do it. Some people need that. Like Mel Brown always talked about the detox. She still does the detox twice a year. This is a financial professional of like a long time. Talks about how she detoxes from things like you do. You know how you do like the detox from like TV and that. She detoxes from finance, like spending for a month. And she also does 7-day sprints, I think. So she'll do like little mini sprints of like detox from this, detox from that. So good. I'm hoping to detox on the phone.
I mean, you could start doing the budget from scratch. You could go as of the 1st of February or whenever you want to do it. Every thing I spend money on is going to be added to the budget as a line item and build it up from there. And so I'm going to cancel everything not cancel everything, but write down all the main expenses, no spending until I record it on the spreadsheet or something.
You can actually find that when you do this though, if you get a list of your expenses, you can actually find the thing that's least valuable to you. So it might be say, you spend a little bit extra on, like you said, a utility bill that you don't need to. Or it might be something like, in transportation, I spent X amount on toll roads. I don't need to take that toll road. I can just take the extra 5 minutes and go somewhere around and save myself $50
I've done that a few
week.
times for sure.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Yeah. I'm definitely a sucker for convenience.
Yeah.
Like everyone sees me coming. Toll road, extra 10 minutes. I'm like, I'll take the toll road. I'm like, wait, that makes sense.
I mean, the reason we're going through all of this and trying to work out where we're spending right now is just so we can make more room for paying off debt, to save, to invest. So we can actually
own assets.
Yeah. The
build
next
wealth.
episode, we'll be talking about Owen's vision board activity, where you can have what you're working towards and what the why behind your financial goals. So in this episode, we're creating some space so you've got money left over to do things with at the end of each month. And then next episode, we're going to say, well, this is what you could do with the money.
Yeah. And so this is more the tools and like some of the two ways to do it. So just in summary here, we've got the kind of like retrospective where you look back. It's the old school method, like print out the statements or look at a statement and write down your spending. And you can turn it into pie charts, like percentages or whatever. So you've got your incoming, your outgoing. But then after a time, I think the big rock one, which sounds like what you do, Monique, to be honest, which is where like you have your jar and you know roughly what the big rocks are that you need to pay and you prioritize. Yeah. And then what's left over is you can invest that or you can do something with it that you want to do.
And you can switch between them. Yeah. I think for the last year, I've been doing the pay yourself first. So I had my goals at the start of the year. I broke it down each month. There's 200 here, 300 here, 1,500 here. And this is the big rocks and they just happened and everything else fell around that.
Automation.
But I think because I had a lot of expenses and I bought a property and money was just going everywhere, that I need to do the old school method for a while to bring things back down to earth.
Yeah, you need to just like reset a bit, right?
Yeah, because suddenly I don't know where things are going and
I had to do that
what's
recently.
going on, and I need a reset. So I think for my plan is for February 2023
Yep.
that it's a bit of a detox reset month and figure out, okay, these are my bills, these are my core here. And so trying to work out what my budget actually is and check back in with my spending, which I think is probably a good idea to do at least once a year.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, I think that just checking in, like I had to do that recently as well. Did it late 2022, just to check in and make sure everything's shipshape.
Yeah.
It wasn't, but that's okay.
Because when you're
I corrected it.
when you're tapping all the time, you lose track of where you're spending, and you can go suddenly, oh, I am spending a lot of money here and I didn't really want to. But if we're not looking
Yeah.
at it with intention, it's very easy to lose track of what's happening. And so going back to the drawing board and maybe starting from scratch and building up your budget again, especially if your circumstances change, if you move to a new state, new job, new relationship, things change. And that might be the right time to go and check in and go through the last 30 days of spending and build it back up again.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Is there any areas you're trying to spend less on this year, Monique? Or more on for you?
Maybe more, honestly.
Do you want to invest more? That's an
Yeah,
interesting one.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something like I've just kind of started, obviously. So that would probably be a nice thing to do now that I earn a little bit more money. Like I can do it now. Before, like I couldn't. But yeah, I don't know. I just find it so hard to break out of the habit of just spending more money because I've been so long not doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's going to take a long time for me to try and spend more money on anything.
What is like one thing or one activity you want to splurge on this year?
Well, I love traveling and experiences. So maybe just go away for a weekend where I usually wouldn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little weekend adventure sometime in the first half of the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. This is feel an arc developing in the podcast.
Well, I feel like I'm going to
to
check in with Monique if by June she's had her little weekend
You need to
vacay.
force me to book it, otherwise I won't do it.
We'll send her to Dalesford.
Yeah, somewhere like that. Somewhere
Well,
nice.
sometimes you need. I did it for someone in my family recently that they're very much in the saving mindset for so long, and I just gave them like, you can actually afford to do XYZ thing, and I just kind of like, I was like, blah blah blah. Here's all the pros. There's not really many cons because it wasn't very much money. They were just in the mindset that it was like something they shouldn't be spending money on, but they actually wanted to do it. So I just gave them a bit of a nudge, and then they were very happy they did it.
Yeah, because I really don't have anyone telling me that, hey, Monique, you can actually spend more money now. It's always like, no, you need to save. You always need to save. So I've never really had anyone around me saying like, no, you can spend money.
And a lot of the content is about saving. We talk about saving and investing, but we don't talk about spending as much.
Do you think that's because you feel bad? Like you feel insecure about spending? Or is it just habit?
I always feel guilty when I spend money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's just,
Monique shouting copies 2023 every day. Let's break the habit, Monique.
Do you feel guilty when you buy us coffee?
Pardon?
Do you feel guilty when you buy us coffee?
No, I don't, because like I feel like that's generous and I'm giving something that makes you guys happy.
Okay.
So I feel good about that.
Okay. That's lovely. You can do it more.
So it's hard. you find it harder being generous to yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, when it's something just for me, I'm like, I probably can live without that, and then I'll just never end up getting it.
What about like when it comes to like crafts and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I always wait for a sale.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. Lincraft notifies me, and
Lincraft, if you're listening, sponsor the show.
Please. Love Lincraft.
Yeah, okay. So, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I feel like there'll be a lot of listeners hearing this right now.
I'll
They're
hardly
like,
buy
I'm
something.
like Monique.
Yeah,
Because maybe you want to spend more money on your hobbies that you love.
Yeah.
Because you have the money there. You might go, I want to get the merino wool this time for my next project.
Well, during like lockdowns and stuff, that's where I learned all my crafts. I didn't feel guilty by all the supplies because I was like, well, I'm not going out. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not spending money anywhere else. So I can spend money here.
Okay. But you had to like go for a whole justification
exactly.
process.
Yeah. And I still kind of felt guilty in the end. But like I had to justify everything.
Yeah. I feel like we need to check back in with Monique.
Yep.
Like
Watch
later
this
in the
space.
year.
Watch this space.
Yep.
Can she spend a little bit more on things she likes, like a hobby or a travel or weekend away?
Yeah.
And like actually start to feel good about it. Like you deserve it. You worked for it and you actually saved the money for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing before we go, and we leave everyone to think about their budgeting for 2023. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, by the way. It can be positive, as you just heard. Is we have an automation course on Rask Education. It's one of our newest courses. It's a very short course. You can complete it in an hour, and it will give you a cheat sheet on how to automate basically everything. So when it comes to investing, when it comes to money management, there are some things that shouldn't be automated, which we also cover. It's a really punchy short course on Rask Education. You can get it for free. Just enroll in it, and if you're the type of person who maybe touches money, or in Monique's case wants to invest more but maybe feels guilty about certain things, you can automate that. Automation is definitely the number one tool or number one friend of the budgeter. So like everything, like we share some stories about what we do in that. It's really easy to automate savings now, incredibly easy to automate investing as well now, which is awesome because that's a new thing. So you can do all of this stuff, put your money on autopilot, and then get back to listening to our other episodes about lifestyle design and like which ETFs to buy and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and we also talk about budgeting and a few more methods than this, like the 50-30-20, like the percentage-based budget in our Rask Road Trip, the free budgeting course. So I'll link that in the show notes. But I feel like, Owen, are you spending more or less on any areas this year?
I want to. Spending is not the right word, but I want to spend more on investing. So I'm treating more and more. Because I'm automating more of it. I'm treating my investing like a bill. Just like Tash always would say.
Yeah.
I'm treating more of my investing like a bill. It's a bill I pay every month, just like electricity, just like a mortgage, just done.
Yeah. So are you reducing spending in any other areas so you can allocate more towards investing?
You know what? Like people like who know me, like you guys know me, people think that I'm a sieve, like money hits my pocket, disappears like flour into a sieve. That would be true if you looked at like what I spend, like I buy coffees every day and all that sort of stuff. But outside of that, I do not spend money on anything, like anything.
Except technology, virtual reality goggles.
Yeah, I bought virtual reality goggles.
That he's used like 3 times.
The cost per wear. That was more like due diligence on a Facebook investment for Meta platforms. But anyway, no, so like I don't spend a lot of money. So for me, I would probably like to spend, it's going to sound weird, I would like to spend more money on clothing because I often don't.
Let's go shopping.
You see me, like every day I wear a Rask top. The company pays for the tops, right? So like every day, even on weekends, I wear the same shit. So I'm like, I wish I just took a bit more care with myself.
Yeah.
Oh, one final thing I will add, something I do want to spend more on is actually self-care. Mm-hmm. So building things like going for a regular massage, even if it's like every few months, or like marathons and the running stuff.
Yeah. Like
that sort of stuff I think is good for me. And actually spending on it means that I do it. So I would like to do a lot more of that.
a good way to commit yourself to that is to book in those like health and wellness appointments in January for the entirety of the year. Like I know some people will go through, okay, I've booked in my eye appointment, my dentist, my psych, my massages, my physio, and book them in 12 months in advance if it's something that you use already on a regular basis. And so it's already in the calendar, it's already there. So you don't have to go through that mental admin of like, when was the last time I went to the dentist?
The actual organising is the worst bit. So that's why
So set a couple of hours and actually just book in all of those life admin, mental health, physical well-being appointments for 12 months.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Because you don't have to pay for them.
You can do recurring as well. You know who gave me the idea around that was Mick Weimer, you know.
With the house.
Yeah, with the house. He has the same thing for the house. He basically automates all the maintenance of the house. So he's got like a deck that needs to be oiled twice a year. So when he got the painters to come and paint his house, he said, okay, what's my maintenance plan for paint? And he said, okay, well, if that needs to be done twice a year, when do I need to do it? You're here, and you're here, and I will budget for that now.
Yeah.
And you can do the same for lawn care, for cleaning. Like you actually go to the experts and you say, when should I be here? And then you're like, okay, just book that all in right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's just such a stress-free way to organize your self-care and your life. So cool. That's where I want to do it. So we've all got each individual thing. What are you going to spend more on? Did you say what you're going to spend more on?
No, this is the year I'm spending less.
Spending less. You're just organizing.
Yes. I'm spending, the big one for me that has spiraled completely out of control is food.
So let's rein that in.
Yes.
Let's rein that in.
Between
less
lunches
Meredith's
and
goat cheese.
dinners.
Thank you, Drew. Yeah.
I don't think I'll change. I'm still buying the Meredith Ghost cheese. But I mean, I have a smaller amount at a time, so it lasts longer. But I still want to work on my cooking. I've started on that. And just cooking maybe 2 to 3 times
Meal
a
prep.
week and making lunch more and things like that. And doing more meals at home with friends and things like that. And just a little bit less mindless spending on the cost of food.
I like that. So it
kind of just went crazy this year.
that's all right. There's worse things to spend money on. I think all of us weren't like, my TAB account, it's whatever. That's more of a vice, and we don't seem to have that as a priority, which is a real thing, by the way. If you are listening to this and you've got a vice like that, whether it's an addiction or you've got gambling or something like that, please get help. Beyond Blue, Gamblers Helpline, all those things are real things.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, that's really important to us. So make sure you get onto that. But it seems like for us, with Monique and I, it's like trying to spend a little bit more in the right areas. With Kate, it's like, let's cut back on that goat cheese over there.
Yeah, the
And
food
the
is...
croissants.
The food part is really hitting the budget. So, reining in that a little bit more, resetting my budget. So I might update in the next Money or Chill also how I go with that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
I think I'm just going to go through everything and be like, these are the core categories. This is where I want to spend the money, and figuring out what does my budget look like now that my life's in a different spot. I will update on how I go lowering my food cost, because it does seem to add up, and I want to direct that money because I'm giving it a job. Because if you don't sort of reallocate the funds, sometimes they just end up absorbed into another area. So I'm going to be reallocating the funds I save in food each month into my offset account, because I'd like to increase the balance there.
That's good. Offset account is a great way to save. Well, it seems like a bit of fun. You did mention the phrase Money and Chill, which is every month we hit the podcast airways with Monique,
Yes.
Mini Pizza, and we have a bit of a chilled out episode. So if you like the Australian Finance podcast and you like the more laid back episodes, those are for you once a month, in addition to ETF reviews, stock market investing, property, budgeting, psychology, books, authors, all that stuff. It's on the Australian Finance
so there'll be
podcast.
plenty of more serious content for you for the rest of 2023.
Yes. But if we can all work on our budgets and our spending plans, I'm going to spend more on self-care. Monique, you're going to spend more in general. And Kate, less on food, please. I think we can have a good year.
What was the please for?
Plenty, please. Please, with serious eyes, please.
We'll put all the links we mentioned
Yeah.
from today's episode. There's a few free courses if you want to dive into this more.
Heaps
and a
of courses.
Spreadsheet.
Yeah. You get spreadsheets, you get everything in the free courses. So go and enroll in a course, please, please, please. That's our priority as a business for 2023. So go and check that out and share it with your friends. Share the love. All right, ladies, Monique, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And Kate, as always, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for listening, everyone.